Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight folks in Howard culture that are blazing the trail and making moves in their respective field. Today, we got a special guest in the building. Special guest, man. This cat, Howard University's own, Chicago's own. This man's a principal at Flanagan Injury Law Group, LLC. Junior trial counsel at James D. Montgomery and Associates. You seen the commercials. This man says he represents the little guy. The little guy.
Esquire.
In quotation marks. First African-American associate at Corboy and Demetrio, PC. 2020 Rising Star by Super Lawyers. Man, what is that? Top 40 Lawyers by National Black Trial Lawyers Association. Board member at large, Cook County Bar Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Flanagan. They say less. They say less is more. What's up, Les?
Man, nothing much, man. Just blessed to be here, man. July 1st, 2020. In the mid half of the year of 2020, man. Just trying to get through this thing.
Thanks for coming on the show, man. I know you busy, man. Fighting for justice. You feel me? Fighting for justice, man. So the little guy, man. Fighting for justice for the little guy. What made you want to be a civil rights attorney, personal injury attorney, man? Why that route?
You know what, man? It's interesting, man. Interesting question. In light of everything that's going on right now, we see some quote unquote little guys in the media, whether it be George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery or Rayshard Brooks, just regular people, man. Regular people who, were going about their day and unfortunately, died due to the negligence or the willful and wanton conduct of police officers. What made me go this particular route, though? Interesting story, man. After I was in law school for about a year and a half, I went to go visit my who's now my wife, Shana Flanagan, out in California, and happened to go to the National Black Attorneys Conference, National Bar Association Conference out in California, and had a chance, man, to rub elbows with the likes of Benjamin Crump, Willie Gary. I mean, some really top-notch civil rights and injury attorneys. And so a lot of people don't know, people like Johnny Cochran, Thurgood Marshall, they were actually civil attorneys. They did the same thing that I do. They were injury attorneys, right? It's just that they finessed it from regular car accidents and, various injuries to civil rights complaints such as police abuse and things like that. So it's kind of all in that same vein, same practice area, if you want to say.
So you've been so tell me about the firm you at, man, because James D. Montgomery, very popular dude, man, been around for a minute. Was he partners with Johnny Cochran at one point?
He was. It was Cochran, Sherry, Givens, Smith, and Montgomery back in the day. So, Johnny Cochran's brand was huge after the OJ trial. He was a great businessman. He wound up opening firms in different cities and major metropolitan areas, and he would look for a partner who really personified what he stood for and was really the partners in various cities who were really good trial attorneys. And so when he came to Chicago, he contacted my boss, James Montgomery, who at that time, he had been staff counsel for Harold Washington, who is Chicago's first black mayor. He had represented Jeff Ford, who, if you're from Chicago, you know that Jeff Ford was the leader of the Black Peace Stones. I mean, he just represented a lot of influential people around town. So when Cochran came here to Chicago, he partnered up with James Montgomery. And it's awesome, man, working for a legend. The man is now 88 years old. He's taught me a lot of things, a lot of tricks of the trade, and just trying to get like him, man,
Yeah, man, you told me that the brother's 88 and still practicing law. I mean, do I want my lawyer to be 88?
Man, I would honestly think that this dude, like I saw him a couple of days ago, he lives right next to President Obama. If you didn't know any better, you would think he's 68, man. He's still sharp as a whip. He still concentrates a lot of his energy on big time 7-figure and 8-figure cases. So, I mean, hey, when you're a lawyer, you don't necessarily have to retire.
So what is it like working for an icon like that, man? Somebody that's been in the game and being able to report directly to that dude.
You know what? I liken it to sports. If you're able to play with Tom Brady, or play with the Michael Jordan, or play for an influential coach like Bill Belichick or Phil Jackson. You just learn, man, and it definitely allows you to, I would say, use those building blocks for the rest of your career, right? Because you can always look back on some of those moments. I'm still very early on in my career. I've been an attorney, practicing attorney for going on 4 years now, man. So, with any career, the foundation is very important, and to be studying under and be a mentee of a master is definitely a blessing.
So when you have questions, man, you just hit him up any time of the day?
You know what? I try not to bug the man too much because he's a lot of times he's out of town driving his Ferrari or whatever sort of foreign car he has in Florida, or he's on his boat, or, he's in his mansion. So, I'm a busy person, so I try to be cognizant of the questions that I ask. A lot of times he'll tell me, go do the research on your own, and then get back to me. So
Wow, man.
I try to definitely try to take those lessons.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. Is there a benefit to working for a smaller firm versus let's say one of the bigger joints that have, hundreds of associates around the country?
Yeah, man. I mean, small businesses, you own a small business. Small businesses tend to be the lifeblood of the economy, and you can do very well as a small business owner. So, if you're number 2 in a small business, which I would probably say I'm number 2 here at the firm, then, it's a trickle-down effect, man. And in addition to that, you get a lot more autonomy, which is a blessing, right? It's 2020, we're in our mid to late 30s. We kind of want to run a show. We want to travel. We want to be able to work from home. We got kids, we got families and stuff. We got spouses, really demanding lives. We're leaders in the community. So working for a smaller firm allows you to kind of spread your wings a little bit more versus being micromanaged in a bigger firm.
So the last firm you're at, I noticed you said you was the first Black associate that they had. How big was that one?
Yeah, I don't know if I should be proud of that or what, but
right in 2000, you're the first Black one. I mean, what was that experience like? Was that a bigger firm that you worked at?
It was a much larger firm. So Corboy Demetrio has been around for over 50 years. Phil Corboy, who founded the firm, he actually bought the naming rights to my law school, Loyola Law School. So when I went to law school in 2013, the law school was named the Phil Corboy Law Center. So that tells you the type of money this dude had. He paid $20 million for the naming rights. So it's a much larger firm. They probably have about 18 associates and then 30 or 40 support staff. 30 or 40 people that are support staff. So, personal injury firms tend to be a little bit smaller anyway, because the lawyers and the owners want to keep all the money to themselves. It's not like a big corporate firm, because we don't really represent corporate interests. We really represent people. So we work off a contingency basis. So our cash flow is a little bit different. But it was a good experience, man. It was a good experience. I was the only brother there.
But what was that like? Like, contrast that to like where you at now. You at a Black firm, a lot smaller. Before, you was the first Black dude. you know what I mean, at the other joint, which was a lot bigger. What are like some of the like differences?
I might have to bite into my apple for this one. I could be myself. It's a breath of fresh air, man. It really is. It's a breath of fresh air. It's really rewarding to come full circle.
You can wear a dashiki and ain't nobody gonna say nothing.
Man, any of that. Because guess what? Everybody who I work with is black. My assistant is black. The receptionist is black. You know, we can laugh and joke about black things. I remember watching the Laquan McDonald verdict when I was at Corboy Demetrio, and I was the only black person in the room. And when the judge sentenced Jason Van Dyke to 16 years for every shot or something like that, everybody in the room.
I thought he got like 6 or 8 years, man.
Yeah, but then he sentenced him to 16 years, but then because of the time served and the various laws that basically allow a person to serve 50% of the time that they're actually going to serve, it wound up being a lot less, right? But initially, he was sentenced to X amount of time. Anyway, you know, the room was quiet, and they seemed disappointed that this man was, you know, found guilty.
Come on, man.
And it was sad. And I'm looking around thinking to myself, like, why are y'all mad? Like, he was wrong, you know? So just like little stuff like that, man, historic moments, you know, definitely, you know, were interesting while I was an associate at Corboy Demetrio. But again, I had a chance to learn from people at a very high level. They do a lot of airplane crashes. They do some very high level cases, multi-million-dollar cases. And I look back at that experience, man, and say, damn, I really learned a lot, and it really helped.
Is it easier to get cases, man, when you at a white firm versus a black firm?
That's an interesting question. So when I was at Corboy Demetrio, a quote unquote white firm, most of my clients were black, right? They still get a lot of black clients.
Right.
The sad part about it is, you know, a lot of people don't understand that the lawyers who they see on TV and the lawyers that they see in their communities, you know, on the south side of Chicago or in Brooklyn, wherever you are, you know, you got a lot of white lawyers that are trying to get the black business. That black business makes people millionaires many times over. So it's good to work at a black firm that really cares about the community, really cares about the clients. And I'm not saying that the lawyers that I work for didn't necessarily care about the clients, but it definitely was a different sort of relationship that some lawyers have with their clients when they're not at the same race. And that's just the facts of life. We're all different. No shade to anybody.
But what about this, man? You ever run into, you know, black folks that they prefer to have a white lawyer? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that ever the case?
Yeah, I mean, the whole, you know, is the white man's ice colder, you know, metaphor. It's challenging, man. It's challenging, you know, and I would say that probably everybody who's watching this who works in the legal community can probably identify with that, you know, no matter where you are in the country. You know, we're fighting uphill battles. The same thing with, you know, unfortunately with doctors or, you know, other professionals. Sometimes people just think that, you know, somebody can be more skilled just based upon their skin color. And so, you know, I really take that seriously, and I really take pride in being the best lawyer that I can and knowing my stuff so that I can counteract those what do you call them? What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, bruh.
Act those stereotypes.
Oh, okay, stereotypes. Right. Question, man. So, personal injury law. I look at personal injury lawyers as like, I guess your client wants you to be as good and as greedy as possible. Would you say that's a fact?
That's a fact, man. Well, I don't know if the client wants you to be like that, but you want to be like that. You got to be a dog, man. You got to be a dog. if you're going to be in a civil justice system, because you got these greedy defense attorneys who don't want to give your client money. They work for these big companies, and they got all these billions of dollars.
What's in it for the defense attorney? It's not their money. They're representing, a big company.
They just want to be assholes. A lot of people who get into this business are extremely competitive. You know that I'm competitive just from back in the day when we used to play basketball. You had your Mercer Monday basketball games, stuff like that. Just competition, man. People, a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners and people who play sports just thrive off competition. And the law is, one of the most competitive arenas that there is on the face of the earth. And so you got to have that dog in you.
So tell me about the time, man, where you had to turn into that dog, man. Where you had to go to the other side, man. Was you slashing tires? Was you busting windows? Like, what was you doing, man? To the competition, bro. I know you can get grimy, man. I know how lawyers get, man.
Yeah, so it's just really, man, it's just really just looking for evidence, man, digging up stuff on folks, man, going that extra mile, looking at people's Facebook, looking at people's Instagram, people say a lot of incriminating stuff on social media, man. So, you dig into somebody's background, man, to, question their credibility, Why are you credible, sir? Why
How can you discredit somebody through social media though, or through Facebook or something? How can you do that?
People say some really interesting things that for instance, people get online and talk about the accident that they were just in. Hey, I just ran a red light, but I'm lying and saying that I didn't, or people say all type of crazy stuff on social media, man. So, and I tell all of my clients, don't get on social media, don't tell me you're injured and then get on social media and you zip lining through Mexico or whatever, because the insurance company is going to be looking for that. They're looking for you to post on social media.
So do you have customers that come to you and they just trying to get paid? And will you still represent them even if, maybe they got a great case, but they're really not that hurt? Is that somebody that you'll represent? Because you got to represent them. Or do you say, I don't do that type of law?
So you know what? That's an interesting question. I would say it depends. Now, if you let's just say that, God forbid, somebody runs a red light and hits somebody who we know, right? And that's somebody who we know doesn't get injured that bad, but that person still ran a red light. Maybe they have some soft tissue injuries, a neck injury, a back injury, but they're really not that hurt. That claim might be worth $15,000 to $20,000. So I have to evaluate if that's worth my time. Typically, I would try to help that person out. Typically, people are not necessarily faking their injuries. Their claim might not necessarily be worth, $100,000, $200,000, or $500,000, but that doesn't mean that they don't need help. So I try to help as many people as I can, man. Bottom line, I try to help as many people as I can.
So you don't turn so you'll hear everything out.
I do turn down cases. I will hear people out because people need a voice. People need to be able to talk to a young black lawyer and be able to bounce legal questions and legal situations off of somebody.
What is the obligation that you have to the client?
So there is something called attorney-client privilege, meaning if I'm your attorney, anything you tell me stays between you and I. But to be honest with you, man, I've never represented somebody who was faking an injury, and I've never represented somebody who told me something that happened that really didn't happen.
But no, not true. Just hypothetically, like if that was to happen, you know what I'm saying? Is like, as a lawyer, I know it's attorney-client privilege, but is there like another thing that says you're not, like O.J. Simpson, for example, right? We talked about O.J. Simpson. If OJ would have said, yo, Johnny, I did it, but I ain't trying to go to prison, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, get me off. You feel me? And OJ and Johnny would probably say to him, like, yo, I don't need no surprises when I get in that courtroom. So tell me everything. You know what I'm saying? So I can be ready to respond to whatever. But if OJ says, yeah, man, I did it, but I think we can beat it. You know, does Johnny then say to him like, all right, I think we could beat it too? Or does Johnny say, man, but you did this crime, man. You got to
No,
go to
man, no. I mean, you don't get in the criminal defense game. See, I'm a civil lawyer, but so we have two different burdens of proof. A criminal defense lawyer has to prove that his client was not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So his job is to create reasonable doubt, right? So, if in that hypothetical, to answer your question, Johnny has an oath to his client to be a zealous advocate, right? He's in the criminal defense game. I know some criminal defense lawyers who know, of course, that their client, sold the drugs or killed somebody, et cetera. But, hey, they have an attorney-client relationship. They've paid for these services. That criminal defense lawyer's job is to create reasonable doubt to a jury. Other than that, you can always plea out. You can always.
Is the obligation to like, is there obligation to the client, or is it like, let's say, to a higher power? Because some would argue that that's not justice. That's not fair. That somebody, just because you got a great lawyer, you can go out and cause harm and havoc, but then you go get L. Michael, top 20 under 20, 40 under 40, you go get him and you good.
Hey, man, I wish I was still 20. That's a good question, man. I was listening to this podcast with Mark O'Mara, who defended George Zimmerman. We all know that George Zimmerman shot Trayvon. But, unfortunately, Mark O'Mara, who's one of the best lawyers in the country, was able to create reasonable doubt based upon what they charged George Zimmerman with, which I believe, and I'm not a criminal lawyer, and this was a while ago, but I believe they charged him with second or third degree murder. So Mark O'Mara's job was to create reasonable doubt in the mind of the jury that George Zimmerman actually committed second or third degree murder. So it depends on the charge, right?
But it wouldn't if you was Mark. Aren't you afraid of like going to hell? You know what I'm saying?
Don't take the case then.
I'm just saying, because and then on top of that, like, how do you lose the Trayvon Martin? That seems like an open and shut case. If you are
a prosecutor,
yeah, that seems like an open and shut case. The Zimmerman called and they said stand down. He approached dude like in 6th grade, gets beat up by a 6th grader, uses his own weapon. Dude's going to his house, and then he flips it and said he was scared for his life after he was the aggressor, man. How do you lose a case like that?
Well, so let me tell you how you lose the case. The jury decided the case. The jury was probably 12. I don't think they had any African Americans on that jury. Maybe they had one. But again, the lawyer, he had a really good lawyer who created reasonable doubt in the juror's mind of whether George Zimmerman actually committed the crime of second-degree murder. It's not whether he killed Trayvon, but whether he actually, because remember, the law is very specific. So when the jury gets their instructions, they have what's called jury instructions. And based upon those instructions, you have to match up with the evidence and what was proven to those instructions. If the evidence and what was proven don't match, there's reasonable doubt. It's unfortunate. It really is. And I'm not saying it was okay.
Define reasonable doubt.
Reasonable doubt is what a reasonable person, if a reasonable person like you or I thinks that there could be a chance that the person did not commit the crime that they were charged for. So if there was a chance that OJ had an accomplice and that he didn't really do it, or he was set up, or that the blood evidence was put there by Mark Furman or whatever, then that's reasonable doubt.
That's different because they got Mark Furman. They had him on the stand. The man said he never used the N-word. Next
credibility.
Right. His credibility was shot, and the LAPD didn't have the best rep. I think that ruined the whole case. So that I could get it. How Cochran got, that was like all that they needed. In the Trayvon Martin case, I'm like, this is Trayvon did what every man teaches his son to do. You know what I'm saying? Defend yourself if somebody jumps on you, and he happened to win.
What was the law? What was the law that was in the limelight at that time? The stand your ground law.
Right.
stand your ground. So that's how they. I mean, so this is like law school 101. You gotta know the law first. You want your attorney to know the law. You want your attorney to be a dog. You want to be able to trust your attorney with your life.
Man, so how steep is racism ingrained in the justice system?
Man, it's tremendously ingrained. I mean, when I was in law school, it might have been 60 people in one particular class, and I was like one of 3 African Americans. So, I know we know a lot of black lawyers because we went to Howard and stuff, and we run in these, cool national upper middle class black folk networks, man. But, most people don't know a lot of black lawyers, or particularly ones that they can touch and see at a party, a day party or something like that. A lot of people don't, man. So to answer your question, racism is steep. And a lot of it is because, like a lot of the kids who I went to law school with, their dad was a lawyer, their grandparent was a lawyer. So a lot of it is institutional, it's systematic based upon the judge's son, going to law school with somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. It's rampant, man. And as a matter of fact, the ARDC, who regulates lawyers, just sent out a statement today, a stance on how they feel about racism, which was really interesting. But the law is the least diverse profession, one of the most least diverse professions in the country, interestingly enough.
Why is it that if you have money that you can count, that can supersede the law?
That's a good question. Mainly because if you have enough money, you can pay enough lawyers, to work for you, man. It's a lot of work being a lawyer, bro. So, we want to work for clients that are well capitalized, or in my case, as a civil lawyer, I want to sue big companies because I know I can get a lot of money from big companies. So,
but let's say this, for example. So let's say this. So if we have a math equation, right? It's me. Let's say I don't have money. So my lawyer I just got one lawyer.
You?
Right. So let's say I got one lawyer, right? And I'm arguing with this other side that says they're saying 2 + 2 is 5.
Mm-hmm.
They got 100 lawyers though. My lawyers are saying 2 + 2 is 4. Like, it's a clear equation, but because they got so much bread, they able to convince the jury that, man, maybe 2 + 2 is 5. Maybe it is. Or they able to tell the judge to give us a continuance, or let's push this back, or they able to bleed me out of money. But when it's just so clear, because it's not like I could see if, the judge, like if the person I'm going against, if they got so much money that they're paying the judge off or they're paying the jury, but I don't know if that's happening. But it just seems weird that people can have so many lawyers that are good and the facts can align up properly, and I could still lose that case of proving that 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah, so so you bring up several good points, and I go back to, criminal law is, I'm not gonna say it's black and white, but it's only 3 things that's gonna happen if somebody gets arrested. Either 1, prosecutors are gonna press charges and eventually dismiss the charges. 2, that person is gonna cop a plea and take some sort of jail time. Or 3, they're gonna take it to trial, right? It's only like one of those 3 scenarios is gonna happen. So if they don't cop a plea and the charges aren't dropped, then that means that they're gonna take it to trial, most likely in front of a jury of 6, 8, or 12 people who are supposed to be of their peers. So jurors are selected by voting, by the voting pool. So guess who don't vote? Us. So when you go to Cook County and there's supposed to be 12 people from the community that are your peers, but none of them are black or none of them look like us, then guess what happens? We go to jail. But guess what happens when that defendant has a lot of money? Well, the lawyer is like, oh, well, we want this person on jury, we want this person on the jury, and you're able to be resourceful and pick jurors, you'll be able to stack the deck in your favor in terms of a jury. And so, I mean, there have been allegations of jury tampering, but at the end of the day, if you go to trial, it's all about the jury. It's all about the jury. I mean, the judge plays a major role, but at the end of the day, a lot of the verdicts and things that we're seeing over the past 20 years are because of the jury.
Tell me about the biggest case you ever worked on, man.
I'm working on it now, man. Working on a case.
Let's talk about that, man. Tell me about this case.
It's a relatively simple case, man. It's a relatively simple case. A Comcast driver was out in Waukegan and ran a red light and unfortunately killed my client's sister. And she was one of 13 children. So she has currently eight brothers and sisters that are alive, and then a host of nieces and nephews. She didn't have any children. She wasn't married. So all of these people will be heirs of her estate. And so right now I'm battling Comcast on that particular case. There's some other high-profile cases that I'm working on here in Montgomery's office. Working on a malicious prosecution case in which a group of youths were out on Lakeshore Drive on Memorial Day a few years ago, and a gentleman got scared. He was with his girlfriend. He thought that these youths were going to try to rob him. Him and his girlfriend take off across Lakeshore Drive, running from these youths, when the youths were really running from somebody else who had a gun, right? So it was a unfortunate situation, but the two people took off across Lakeshore Drive, and the lady wound up getting hit by a car. So they charged our client with attempted murder, right? This kid is 18. He's just downtown hanging with his boys. Somebody pulls out a gun. Everybody starts running, and these two older people start running across Lakeshore Drive thinking that they were being robbed. So our client spent 3.5 years in jail for a murder he didn't commit, right? There was no evidence that our client was trying to rob these two people, right? So that's what's called a malicious prosecution case. But at the time, that was a very high-profile case because everybody was trying to figure out why this lady got hit in the middle of Lakeshore Drive across from Northwestern Hospital. And so what did the police do? They succumbed to the media pressure, and they arrested two young black teenagers and threw them in jail. And eventually they were found not guilty. So now we're suing the police and the city for our client's damages. They took away 4 years of the best years of that boy's life. So when we were in school at 18, we were hanging out on the yard. This brother is sitting in Cook County Jail. So life can change just like that, man. But that's one of the other big cases that we're working on. We think that one is worth millions of dollars. Imagine if somebody took away 4 years of your life between 18 and 22, and you come out, man, you've been around all these dudes. Instead of going to college, you've been around some of the toughest and roughest criminals that America has to offer in Cook County Jail. So we think that case is worth 7 figures.
How do you calculate how much a case is worth? Like in the case of the Comcast driver hitting somebody, like how do you? Because I would think that if I ran over Oprah versus running me over, I would imagine those are two different financial consequences, right?
Correct. So we typically calculate, everybody's case could be worth a lot of money, but it's all about what the defendant has. Can the defendant afford to pay? So in the civil justice system, we typically call big cases in which we're suing a Comcast, who is a Fortune 500 company, or the city of Chicago, which is a huge corporation. So it's unfortunate that some people don't get the justice that they deserve because they get hit by Pookie and Ray Ray, or something bad happens to them, and the person who's responsible just doesn't have a lot of money. It's unfortunate, but that's why people should have insurance. Shout out to State Farm, not Allstate.
I'm an Allstate agent, man. So I mean, but still, how do you calculate? Like if somebody hits me,
Mhm.
you know, or like does my earning potential that like do you look at like what I made or what my net worth is to help calculate what that loss should be?
We do. So that's what's called damages. We look at, first of all, your injuries, in civil law and injury law, how you're injured and the catastrophic nature or the degree into which you're injured definitely plays a huge role into how much your case is worth. But certainly your lost income and your earning potential. I mean, it varies, man. I like to tell people that there are 5 things that they can recover for in a personal injury case. It's property damage. It's what's called loss of normal life, meaning things that you could do before that you can't do now because of the injury, like playing with your kids, or if you like to go surfing and you can't surf anymore, or if you like to, do gymnastics, you can't do gymnastics anymore, right? And if that was your career, if you were a gymnast and now you can't be a gymnast, you can't flip for the rest of your life, then that case becomes a lot more valuable as well. The other 3 things are your medical bills,
So if I'm making like
pain and suffering,
so
pain and
let's say if
suffering
I'm making
definitely
like
going as well,
100 grand, I'm making 100 grand,
right?
a year,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
I
make
can't
more than that, man.
and I can't work no more. You know, do you like say, all right, well, this guy probably would have worked, you know, 40 more years. Do you say we're gonna multiply 40 times 100 grand, then we're gonna add the medical bills and whatever else? Is that how you come up with the equation, like based on what you said?
So, God forbid, man, this was your case. We will hire what's called an expert witness. We will hire an economist to come in and say, look, Joshua Mercer, he was a promoter. He was doing this. He was doing that. He was doing a lot of different things. But yeah, no. So typically we hire what's called experts, right? Experts cost a lot of money, but experts know how to talk to juries. They know how to talk to opposing counsel, and they know how to create reports to get people to understand exactly how much a person would have made, or maybe you need an expert witness. Like in OJ's case, because I like to use OJ's case or some of these more popular cases because everybody knows about them. But maybe like a DNA expert, right? That's what they hired in OJ's case to say, well, there was a 1 million, there was a 1 in 10 million chance that OJ didn't do it, right? So you got all these high profile, highly paid experts in pretty much every area of life that can testify to a reasonable degree of certainty that whatever the lawyer pays them to testify to, actually.
Damn, man, that's crazy, man. So okay, so let's say you win. You represent the plaintiff, right?
Correct.
So let's say that you win. The plaintiff gets 10 million. How much of that? Break it down to me in terms of what the law firm gets and then what you get.
So typically most injury lawyers charge a contingency fee of 1/3 of whatever they recover, right?
Damn.
So it's 1/3, and sometimes lawyers charge even 40% of whatever they recover, especially if it goes to trial. So you do the math.
So okay, so 10 million. If I'm getting a third of that, that's obviously $3.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come back to the firm.
That'll come back to the firm, or if you work for a firm. But a lot of folks work for themselves. They're solo practitioners, and then also every lawyer has their own deal with the firm they work for. Some lawyers get a 50% split. Some lawyers get a 2% split. It just depends. Sometimes if you do work for a firm, how much you're actually getting paid in salary, how much work
you get 2% of that. You get 2% of that 10 million and 2% of what came back to the firm.
2% of what came back to the firm. So for what we do, for some of the high profile cases that you guys are seeing, for the Ahmaud Arbery case, I mean, all of these cases, lawyers are working on a contingency. So all of these press conferences where you hear people, say, hey, my client was wrong, my client was shot, et cetera, et cetera. The families of the victims are not paying for those services up front. The lawyers are working on contingency, and whatever the lawyer gets, typically, whatever the lawyer gets for the family in terms of compensation or damages, as we like to call them in the court of law, then the lawyer's fee will be 1/3 of whatever he's able to recover. Point blank, period.
If he loses, then he won't get paid.
He doesn't get paid, and the client doesn't get paid, which is why a lot of cases settle out of court.
So do you prefer to go to court, or do you prefer settlements?
It depends, man. It's hard to get maximum dollars unless you go to trial. Sometimes you can get maximum dollars, but it just depends on the case. It depends on the liability in the case. Maybe sometimes maybe your client or my client might have done something a little wrong, so they might have a little exposure, and there might be a chance that we could lose a trial. So it's better to get some for sure money than to get no money at all. Other times, the defendant just makes a completely insulting lowball offer, and you got to go, pretty much lay the hammer down, man. Show them, hit them where it hurts, and get a huge verdict. And then they start to respect you, just like anything else.
It's grimy, man. It's grimy feel. I don't know how you do it, bro.
I love it, man. I love it.
So what made you choose Howard, man?
Man, it was no other choice, bro. I went on a couple of college tours when I was 15, 16. The first college tour I went on was down south. We went to Xavier, we went to Texas Southern, Jackson State, Grambling, Kentucky State, and it was dope. I'm like, okay, HBCUs, because there was no question in my mind that I was going to go to HBCU. But then I think it was my junior year that I went on the East Coast college tour to Howard and Hampton, man. And once I got to Howard, I knew that I was going to go to Howard. My mom wanted me to go to Hampton because she thought Howard was a little bit too much for me, that I was going to be wilding out, which she was right. I wanted to be around the best of the best, man. Coming out the Chi in the year 2000, I felt like, I was probably, one of like the top people in my class, in terms of potential. So I wanted to be around other people who considered themselves the best of the best. And
so academically, you was on point coming out of high school.
I had to hustle, man. It wasn't the academics. I mean, I did okay on the ACT. I had a decent GPA. I wasn't in the high threes. I think I graduated from high school with maybe like a 2.9, 2.95. I think I did a little bit above average on the ACT, but I was always a good writer, right? So my written statement and just my intangibles, what got me into Howard, I didn't get the huge scholarship, but I had a lot of intangibles, man, that I knew that, being surrounded with great professionals and professors, and a great support system at Howard, man, that I would come out ready for the world. And, that was
what was it like? What was it like when you got on campus, man? Like, paint that picture for the people, man, who weren't around in 2000.
Just women, man. It was just a lot of women. It was 7-8 to 1, man. It was crazy. I kid. But it was. Everybody knows the crazy ratio from Howard. Be clear. # be clear. But that's what it was like for me as a 17, 18-year-old, man. I did do pre-orientation, which was crazy. So I kind of already had an idea of what to expect. But at that time in 2000, Howard was in the hood, man. It wasn't as gentrified, as it is now. It was still dangerous over there, man. Now it's, it ain't Chocolate City no more. So that was interesting coming from the inner city of Chicago, going to DC. It wasn't that much of a transition in terms of being in the hood.
So you mentioned you came to Howard because you wanted to be around the best of the best. Did it meet those expectations?
It did. And another reason why I came to Howard, because, a lot of, being from Illinois, man, a lot of cats were like, oh, I'm going to U of I. I'm going to Northern. I'm like, I'm cool. I knew I wanted to go away to college. You know, I was itching to get away, man. Only child, single parent, man. You know, you can relate, man. I was like, man, Mom, I'm dusting these shackles off, Mom. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I was definitely
Real
looking forward to getting away, man. You know, I didn't want to go to U of I. I thought that was kind of like, you know, like being average. I thought going to Northern or Southern was being average.
Damn, shave.
What was your question,
Shave,
man? I get so caught up.
I said did it meet expectations? Just asking.
It over exceeded my expectations, man. You know, just meeting some very interesting people. You know, my first couple of years at Howard, man, I wasn't really I wasn't really going to class like that, man. You know, who would have ever thought that somebody who you know went to school an extra 3 years and, you know, had to study for the bar exam would actually admit that and say that. But I wasn't really in class, man. Howard just taught me a lot about life my first couple of years.
Damn, so you did an extra 3 years at Howard?
No. I did an extra 3 years by going to law school.
Oh, I'm like, damn.
Man, you know,
what the hell?
Man, you know how much debt I would be in if I did an extra. That's a long time, man. But I do know people who did, you know, a whole decade at Howard, though.
Hey, low key, it might be worth it, man. That's an invaluable time when you look back on this shit. I do an extra 3 years for $100,000.
I did an extra year. When I got to Howard, I said, you know what, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna be on this 5-year plan, man. I wasn't in a rush to leave.
So what were you involved in any organizations on campus?
I was. So I was involved in the Hilltop, District Chronicles, those two organizations. Let me see. I was vice president of NAACP, led a march from Howard to the Supreme Court at that time. That was in 2003. So that's when affirmative action that came up in the Supreme Court, and the University of Michigan. That was that big case that surrounded the University of Michigan, and punk ass Clarence Thomas, you know, wrote his opinion on why race shouldn't be a factor in admissions and stuff like that. So we actually marched on that, man. But yeah, that was a great time. So I wasn't a campus pal. I didn't pledge. When I was at Howard, man, no shame, but I feel like the alphas kind of ran everything. You know, there were very few omegas at the time at Howard, and then the Kappas were suspended. So I felt like there wasn't very much of a choice when I was at Howard from 2000 to 2004, 2005. I know some other people wound up going to Georgetown to pledge, you know, or University of Maryland, but it seemed like fraternities were kind of weak, with the exception of the alphas. Fraternities were kind of weak.
But didn't they have sigmas and
No, that's not me. That's not me, man.
So you would have been a Kappa?
Hey, man, I'll reserve what I would have been. You know, woulda, shoulda, coulda, man. It's all about now, man. I was me, 5 a GDI, as my mom would say, a goddamn independent.
Okay, good to know, man. So you was doing your thing, man. NAACP, Chicago People's Union, I'm sure. But you said you weren't the best student.
I wasn't, man. I had a lot of extracurricular jobs, like off campus. I worked at Up Against the Wall. Where else did I work? I worked at Peace Arena Uno. Then I started doing these internships, man. I started writing for Sports Illustrated on campus.
What was your major?
Print journalism.
Oh, okay. Print journalism, man. So when you at this time at Howard, what were your aspirations in terms of career?
You know what? I knew I always wanted to be an attorney, man. I always wanted to be an attorney. And, you know, what's funny is I got into a little trouble, man. I got into a little trouble my freshman year at Howard. I'm not going to say what happened, but I will say that my mom saved my ass. She hired me.
I remember that. Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate.
My mom hired me an attorney, And, you know, believe it or not, I'm telling the attorney, like, man, hey, I want to be an attorney one day, man. He's like, I'm like, so, you know, what should I major in? He said, you know what? It's really important to learn how to write and become a good writer. So, because at the time I decided I wanted to major in poli-sci, right? School of Arts and Sciences. But that particular instance, man, you know, and that shows you how to turn a negative into a positive, you know, take lemons and make lemonade. He told me that I should major in print journalism and learn how to write. And so I wound up, you know, declaring my major that next semester in the School of C, man. And the rest was history, man. Look at me now, you know?
So it's safe to say, man, if, you know, without your mom's being thorough, man, it's, you don't get to where you are.
Oh, no. My mom wanted me to come home, man, sophomore year. She like, look, you ain't going to class. You might as well bring your ass back here. You can enroll in a community college. I'm not going to be paying for you to be out there, you know, excuse my French, but fucking up. I'm not going to be. And I said, Mom, please give me another chance. Give me another chance. You know, I'm going to get serious. You know, I'm just getting my bearings. And, you know, because my mom's a single parent, man. And, you know, she made good money, but she ain't have it just to blow. But at the same time, she really stuck with me. She really, you know, was patient with me. And, you know, we all are early bloomers. Some of us are late bloomers. Some of us got to, you know, fall down a couple of times before we get back up and dust our shoulders off and really realize our true potential, man. And after that conversation that I had with my mom, man, I really cleaned up my act, man, and went on. I wound up interning on Capitol Hill with at the time my Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. I wound up working for the Washington Wizards for a short period of time. I just spread my wings, man. You know, DC was a great city to go to college in. I had a lot of opportunities, and I was there for it all, man. I took advantage of every opportunity that Howard and DC provided me, man. And it was, you know, as everybody knows who's listening to this, man, Howard provides with a lot of different opportunities. So,
oh yeah, big time.
Therefore, man, I'm an opportunist.
Big time, man. Time at Howard was, man, it was just excellent, man. What do you think separates Howard, man, from all these other HBCUs?
I think honestly, man, with the exception of like Hampton and Morehouse and Spelman, like, we just think we're better than everybody else, man. We just dominate, man. A lot of it is psychological. I mean, of course, we were founded by the Freedmen's Bureau, you know, so we were, you know, one of the first. You know, we get a lot of government funding. I don't know if Howard still gets that or not, but we were one. I think the only HBCU for a long time that actually got government funding, man. So it's a lot of different little things that a lot of people don't think about that makes Howard unique. In that aspect, it is in the nation's capital. But, you know, above all, man, it's our mentality that we are the best. And, you know, people take that mentality and then they use that motivation throughout their careers, right? And so we wind up shining in various areas, whether it be entertainment or I was going to say sports, but entertainment or law or communications or a lot of different areas because Howard gives you that confidence. Yeah. Like, man, I'm the shit.
So when you graduated in what, 05?
Yeah.
So you graduated in 05. You just immediately go to law school?
No, I did, man. I had, as everything else in life, man, I had a non-traditional route, right? I had to grow first, man. I wasn't ready, you know? So I remember being on that shuttle bus with my mom and my aunties on graduation day. And actually, the president of Howard University Law School was like, hey, Les, if you want to go to Howard Law School, it's on me. He didn't say it he didn't say it in those exact words, but basically he was like, if you want to go to Howard University Law School right now, then I'll help you get in and, you know, I'll make it happen for you.
Why would he say that to you?
Because, man, I was an excellent, I mean, you know, one thing that Howard taught me is it's not what you know all the time, but it's who you know. I was an excellent networker at Howard, man. I got to know a lot of different high-level people, a lot of high-level administrators, professors. And people saw the potential in me, man. So, but I wasn't ready, right? I didn't even see it in myself at that time. And so I was like, nah, you know what? I want to get out, make some money first. I'm going to take a couple of years off, and, travel and, kind of be an adult first and then go back to school, which is what I did. Howard introduced me to this program called the Media Sales Institute. So that's how I wound up getting into radio. I worked at various radio stations for about 7 years selling radio ads before I went back to law school. But that was another connect. Shout out
So you was cashing out.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just been blessed, bro. I just been blessed, man, and that I've always had some opportunities to work at some good organizations for high level people, and most importantly, kind of build that foundation that you need for the rest of life, man. Because a lot of times, as an entrepreneur, man, you'll get knocked down. You might be the only Black person in the room. You might be, the poorest person in the room or the wealthiest person in the room. But you have to learn how to adapt, man. And from the year 2000 that I came to Howard on throughout probably my first few years after Howard, man, that was like a osmosis. Because you got to think, we were only 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I mean, now I look back being 37 years old and I realize how young and immature, we all were. Some of us were more mature than others, but, and some of us came from different backgrounds. Some of our parents had more money than others, but I think that Howard definitely was like the great equalizer in getting me to the point where I'm at now.
I mean, was it ever a time when you was at Howard that you felt like, overwhelmed and maybe you should give up or quit and maybe you didn't belong?
Yeah. It was my last test. It was my last test right before graduation, man. And I'm like, damn, this fucking chemistry test, this calculus test is hard because they make you take these crazy classes and tests, man. And everybody looking around, all the seniors in the room, like, bro, what's the answer? What's the answer? Just kidding. But yeah, no, I wanted to give up then, or when it was that Spanish test, when I was trying to, when I was in Spanish 2 or 3. And I know and I was like, man, I'm gonna fail this class. Let me give up. But nah, seriously, nah. It was never a time when I thought I should leave Howard or I didn't belong. Some classes were challenging than others, and I would notice that some people, like, we went to school with some straight intellectuals, man. Some people who were like straight scholars. You and I, probably were more on the social side. I can speak for myself. I was more socially active, and Howard definitely matured me in that aspect. But there was people who would study night and day, man, just all the time. And so looking back, I see why we have like the most Rhodes Scholars we went to school with some very smart people.
Yeah.
I think that I pretty much landed where I should be in a profession where, I can use my personality and some of my intangibles, along with my intellect, to succeed. But certainly we went to school with a lot of smart people, and so a lot of those tests in college was challenging, man. Howard isn't easy, man. It's not easy to get to have a 3.5 or 4.0 GPA. It ain't, especially freshman and sophomore year when you got to take those core classes.
So once you get this settlement with Comcast, what's the first thing you're gonna buy?
First thing I'm going to buy, man. Well, the courts are closed down because of COVID-19 right now, right? So they're due to open in July. I might be 39, 40 years old, man, by the time that this case actually shakes out, man. So, hopefully I'll have another kid, and I can buy my other son or daughter. Shout out to Shane Michael Flanagan, just made 2. June 11th.
Happy birthday, Shane.
Yes, sir. Shane, y'all think I'm that dude. Wait till the next one. Wait till Shane comes through. Shout out to Truth for Service. But so yeah, I'll probably go ahead and pay for, his 4 years at Howard, man. Do something crazy like that, like now. You know what I'm saying? With that cash. Go ahead, get it out the way, man. go ahead and put it in a, what is it, a 501c3 or one of them?
Yeah, come and see me, man, because I'm not a 501c3. That's a nonprofit, but
what's it? 529.
A 529 plan.
529.
Well, yeah, put it with me, man. I sell those.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about that, man. So that's good. You're doing a responsible thing, man. So you got some financial literacy, man. So what about, if you can give your 18-year-old self some advice going into Howard right now? What advice do you have for a young man, a young woman that's coming into Howard and wants to get the best out of it, man? Wants to be, top super lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Wants to have that well-rounded experience, man. What advice do you have for them?
That's a good question, man. One thing I'm learning in life, man, is everybody has their own journey. And despite the advice that you give people, even your kids, sometimes they'll take it and, as I did, you don't always take people's advice when they want you to take it. So, but certainly, looking back, business literacy is important. Shout out to all the folks freshman year who came super prepared, all school of BS with the ties on and the suits. And I'm like, damn, I'm in the school of C. I'm sitting on the yard. Y'all got meetings to go to and all of that. So looking back, I'm like, okay, maybe if my kid, went to Howard, I was 18, maybe I would, join or major in some business class. But I was fortunate enough, man, to read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was introduced to me when I was at Howard, probably like my junior year. It really changed my life. Shout out to buying assets over liabilities. So the first thing I'm gonna do with my money is definitely, buy something that, is an asset. Definitely business literacy, man. I would say, and just enjoying the moment, man, chilling out. Don't be doing those, no stupid shit your freshman year, that could jeopardize, your career or, your time at Howard or jeopardize your life, man. Cats at Howard, man. I know cats at Howard that was taking penitentiary chances, man, and doing all sorts of crazy things. I mean, I think that is and that happens at every HBCU, basically every college, right? So y'all think the college is like this great place where people just go to, have the best times of their life and just learn, and everybody's a scholar. But Cass is out there, man, like, selling drugs and, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, stealing Social Security numbers and, just crazy stuff, man. So, man, don't get caught up running with the wrong crowd, man, trying to be a fake thug. You go to a school like Howard, you should be there to get your degree, man. And so, did I necessarily know that at 17 or 18? Not necessarily, coming from Chicago, we all, we think we like the game banging city and this and that, man. But I learned, and I'm here to tell about it, man. God is good.
Wow, man. Gems from L. Michael Flannagan, man. So what's your legacy gonna be, man, when it's all said and done?
Man, my legacy, that's a good question, Josh. Man, you could have been in the school of C. You could have been a journalism major, man, because you asked some really good questions. I ultimately want to help African American people, the entire African diaspora, right, around the world, with economic development, man. I haven't, my feet haven't touched the soil in the motherland yet, but I certainly want to explore the motherland over the next 10 years.
You definitely gotta go, man. You definitely gotta go there, bro.
Yeah. I certainly want to explore. I mean, it's a continent, right? Yeah. We got this thing in our minds sometimes, not us highly educated people, but the normal people, right? Lay people have this perception that Africa is a country.
Well, that's because it's always referred to as Africa, but then, you don't refer to Europe as Europe. You say Paris, you know what I'm saying? You say Germany, but people be like Africa, like it's just not, South Africa or Ghana or Nigeria or, all these other places. But no, 100%, man. I've been twice, man, and best trip I ever been on by far.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I certainly want, you know, my son Shane to, you know, follow my foot, but I need multiple children. I need more than one child, man. See, I was the only child, but you know, I need like a hipster kid, one that
Yeah,
can
you
be
got to have more than one, because you know,
yeah,
in case one of them is don't really turn out like you want. You know what I'm saying? You increase the odds when you have more than one. I'm stopping at 2, but you definitely need more than one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I want 3, man, because I have a lot of different sides of me. So I need somebody to take on like the like political, you know, button up L. Michael, and then I want somebody to, you know, kind of like be just like a free spirit, man. You know, it's a lot of pressure being an only child and having to be the first one to kind of break through it in your generation. You know what I mean? But so as far as legacy is concerned, man. You know, I probably won't retire from the practice of law. I'll probably always do these sorts of cases that I'm doing right now, representing plaintiffs in the civil justice system. But I want to take some of the earnings that I make and expand it to economic development across the diaspora, man, and just really try to have an impact, man. I was reading a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that, but that was another book that got introduced to me, you know, 20 years ago at Howard. But it just talks about like everybody wanting to have a feelings of importance, like that they matter, right? So I think that my feeling of importance is one, helping to, you know, create a legacy so that my kids have a much easier path than I did, because I definitely grinded it out to get to the point that I'm at. But also the people around the diaspora, man, we're so fortunate to go to schools like Howard, and you know, to be in the networks that we're in, growing up in a city like Chicago. But it's a lot of people, man, who just don't have those opportunities. So, and I think that one of the main ways we can affect that is through economic development. You know, we live in a city in Chicago, which the North Side is, extremely economically developed, and the South Side is not. You know, why is that, right? And so you look at every city, urban, major metropolitan area in the country, and it's a pattern of that. And then it's a pattern where Europe is developed economically, but you know, it's a lot of parts in Africa where they're not. And it's all about opportunity, right? Because if you don't have the opportunity, and you don't have the opportunity to strive to get to a certain level, or you're not exposed as Howard did for us, then how can you ever, you know? I think that we're world leaders, man. Black people, we are, you know, and I don't feel like we should be, you know, at the bottom rung. I mean, I've traveled to Europe, you know, I've traveled to Mexico, I've traveled a lot of different places, and I noticed the discrimination in a lot of different places. People are happy to come into contact with African Americans, and they think we, you know, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, all these famous people, man. But at the same time, darker people all across the world are discriminated against. Why is that, right? So that's my legacy, man. To kind of bring it all back into the fold is just economic development and you know, helping people, man.
That's dope, man. Hey, drop bars, bro. Hey, man, you've been a great guest. I appreciate you coming on, man. I just want to do a real quick some Howard Jeopardy, some rapid fire, you know, see what you know about your alma mater, bro. You ready? All right. So first we're doing the Howard Jeopardy. So what year was Howard founded?
Hold on, let me type it. 1867.
What is the Howard motto?
Truth and service, baby. That's
cheat sheet. Got a cheat sheet, man. What's the body of water located closest to Howard University? What's the name of it?
I believe that would be the Potomac.
The reservoir. Damn.
Oh, you talking about that body of water, man. I was thinking of Wharf, man. I gotta taste the seafood, man. I was thinking of Wharf, baby.
Hey, bro.
All good.
You a lawyer, man. You gotta read all that fine print, man.
It's all good. What else you got for me?
Name all the 4 halls in the quad.
Oh, they were all named after like African-American women who were very successful. I know you got Bethune. Oh, Booty Wall. Come on, man. You should know this. I was more of an annex guy, man. What can I say? The annex was new, man.
Truth, Frazier, Baldwin. Come on, man. Crandall, you gotta know these. Bethune, I don't even know where you got that from. That's the name of the whole thing. Anyway, man.
I said I was an annex guy, man. I ain't mess with those girls from the quad, man, like that.
They probably mess with you either, man. How do you spell Crampton?
Crampton?
Yeah, how you spell Crampton?
It's like cramping your style. It's like a C to the R to the A to the M to the P to the T-O-N.
There's no P in Crampton. Did you go to Howard? Did you go to Howard, man?
There's not?
Did you go to Howard, bro? You said you a lawyer, right?
I ain't been back, man. I ain't been back in like 2-3 years, man.
It's all love, man.
I ain't even been on the yard, man. Last time I was at Howard, man, I think you threw a party, and I didn't even make it to the yard, man.
Yeah.
I was down at the tailgate, man. So I haven't seen the words Crampton in a while. And when you say Crampton, it sounds like you're saying cramp, like cramp your style.
Hey, man.
See, I just blurred my way out of that.
I'm just asking questions, bro.
Hey, man, that's why a jury will believe me, man, because I got a lot of excuses for stuff.
Hey, the joint's been around since 1867. So,
Crampton?
Anyway, man, can you finish this sentence? Reared against the eastern sky.
No.
Proudly there on Hilltop High.
Is that from Lift Every Voice and Sing? Man, nobody knows that song, man.
People know it, man.
I know. Dum, 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 dum. You know our little fight song? Boom, boom. When it get real deep. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom.
No, I don't. Who is the president of Howard?
President of Howard. Dr. Fredericks.
Okay. Who is Howard named after?
Mordecai Howard. He was like some Civil War general or something like that.
Mordecai Wyatt Johnson is one of the past president of Howard, who the A building is named after. But Howard was named after General Oliver Otis Howard. You know, okay. How many schools and colleges does Howard have?
How many what? Schools and
colleges?
I guess 12.
13.
Close.
Can you finish this sentence? Finish this sentence. I'm so glad I go to Howard U.
And not a white school.
Got it. Hey, man, you coming back.
Orientation.
What is the Black National Anthem?
Lift Every Voice and Sing.
There you go. All right, let's do some rapid fire. So rapid fire, you just going to answer these questions real quick, no explanation. All right, number 1. U Street or Adams Morgan?
Adams Morgan.
Good stuff, man. Well, yo, L. Michael Flanagan. Been a great guest, bro. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
That's it? I don't get to talk anymore?
That's
it, man. We can do this all night, man.
That's it, bro. I can't even see your face, man.
Oh, come on, man. I just came back from Florida, man. I'm a little dark, man. Don't blame me. It's a little dark over here. That's all, man.
Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.